Okay, I'm going to show you two pictures on the screen. In these two pictures, I'm the exact same weight, believe it or not. These pictures are from two different cuts that I tried. The first picture that you see, about 2 to 3 months prior to this picture being taken, I was 75 kg and my goal was to cut down. And the picture that you're seeing now was when I was 68 kg. I thought I had done a successful cut and I'd got rid of my fat. But the truth is, I was still skinny fat. And that was with following all the advice online about, calorie deficits and all this stuff. The picture that you're seeing now is me now, also at 68 kg. And about 3 months prior to this photo, I was also about 77 kg and I cut down. But I cut down in a completely different way. And I didn't use the traditional calorie deficit myth that you're told. Now don't get me wrong, you need to be in a calorie deficit, but being in a calorie deficit in the traditional sense that we're all told about is wrong, and I'll explain why. And then I'll explain things properly so you don't waste time like I did. Okay, now this is not going to be some weird scientific crazy advice. This is just going to be what's worked for me, and I know it's worked for other people as well. First time I did this, my maintenance was about 2,600 calories, and I took the standard advice. The standard advice is subtract 2 to 300 from this, maybe slightly more, let's just say 300. So we're going to consume 2,300 calories. And then what we're going to do on top of this is we're going to do maybe 10,000 steps a day, which is going to take our net calories for the day below this. So we've consumed 2,300, but now we're going to do some activity, so we're going to burn some. And so our net calories on the day might be something like 1,900. This is the approach I did. But here's the big problem with this. You see, the number here, 2,300, sure, it sounds great on paper, we need to be in a deficit, so we need to eat less. I followed this advice. The problem was I had no energy because I was eating barely any calories. I could not lift properly and I could not lift intensely. That's the main thing. I don't know if I spelled that right. I could not lift to the point where I felt like I was, progressively overloading. In fact, I actually regressed in this time because I just wasn't eating enough food, and that meant that my muscle mass went down. And obviously you don't want that, because when you're cutting you want to maintain your muscle, because if you don't, then you're going to end up in a worse position than when you started. And overall you can see that by following the normal advice about calorie deficits that you're given, which is technically not wrong, but the way that they tell you to do it is wrong, as you can see, it's not going to lead to the best outcome. Our outcome is to shred that fat off, not just be smaller, which was kind of what I was. In that picture you can see I'm clearly not fat, but I'm also not shredded. Our goal is to be the second picture. So how are we going to go about this? Because we still need to be in a deficit. Well, this is what I did the second time around, and this works way, way better. So the second time around, what I did was I found my maintenance. Now by this point, about 3 months ago now, my maintenance had gone up because I increased my muscle mass, I was a bit more active, and so that meant my background, the calories I was burning in the background, went up. So my maintenance was about 2,900. My first cut was, I would say, unsuccessful. I think it's pretty clear that it was unsuccessful. So what did I do for the second time? Well, I decided I can't really function properly with low calories, and I want something that's maintainable. I know I need to be in a deficit, but I need something that I can, maintain. So this is what I did the second time. I actually ate slightly above my maintenance. Now you may be thinking, well, okay, you're eating above your maintenance. How are you going to lose fat? You're in a calorie surplus every single day. Well, here's what I did. The first thing is, notice I'm not eating way above my maintenance. I'm not eating 4,000, 4,500. I'm eating slightly above my maintenance, and this is going to be important in a second. The first thing that this allows is me to have my energy back. So I have my energy back. Now this means I can lift heavier again, because I have more energy. I can, lift heavier. And you guys probably notice the same thing. When you have more energy, you can push yourself way heavier. And this is important for maintaining my muscle mass while being in a deficit. Now, I know I'm not in a deficit just yet, but I'll explain how we get to that. But the first thing is my energy's back, and that's one of the most important things. So I'm eating above my maintenance, okay? 3,200. So here's how I did that. I said, okay, instead of compensating on food, I'm going to eat a good amount of calories, so I have my energy, I'm not feeling terrible, I'm not just becoming a skinny fat version of myself by being in such a huge deficit. I can actually maintain this for a long period of time, which is what we need for fat loss. But instead of, being in a huge deficit, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 10 to 15k steps a day. Okay, so 10 to 15,000 steps per day. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means I'm going to burn anywhere from 400 to 600 calories per day. And then if you include my training, so let's say training is another 150, I'm gonna take the middle of that, which is 500, add 150 to it. That means I'm burning 550 calories actively through the day. Now, in my last video I talked about something called NEAT, which is calories that I burn doing stuff like this, fidgeting around, talking, and that might burn an extra, I don't know, 100 calories. I'm not too sure, but overall my active calorie burn is 650. Now, if I look at the amount of calories I've eaten on the day, which is 3,200, and I take away that 650, that means that my net calories on the day, the amount of calories that I am, up on the day, is 2,550, which means that I'm in a 350 calorie deficit while eating more than my maintenance, but just doing more activity. The traditional advice you're given is eat below your maintenance and then on top of that do activity. What does that do? It depletes your energy, makes you feel sometimes stressed out, which can increase cortisol and actually store more belly fat. It means you'll probably lose muscle mass, especially if you're on an aggressive cut, and you won't look how you expect. You'll look how I looked. You look skinny fat. You will become smaller, you will potentially lose fat because you're eating less food, but you won't look shredded like you expect. Now, with this new approach, and maybe some of you do this already, which is great, but with this new approach where we kind of forget the traditional sense of being in a calorie deficit and we focus on eating high protein, whole foods at or slightly above our maintenance, but then doing cardio to compensate for that, is going to be way better. We'll have way more energy. We'll be able to maintain, heavy lifts, we'll feel great in the gym, we'll build muscle, but then that walking will shred off the fat by putting us in a deficit. This is the way to do it, okay? So ignore most of the fat loss, calorie deficit advice you see online, and trust me, if you do this, you will get results, because I didn't know how to get rid of my skinny fat body until I listened to this advice. And the proof is there. Try it for yourself. If it doesn't work, you can come back to this video in 3 months and leave a hate comment, dislike, and do whatever, okay? But just try it.